It's been a rough start for Steve Sarkisian and the Texas Longhorns recruiting season, but I'm here to tell you that that should never be the case. And the Texas Longhorns need to stop being humble and start flexing their muscle. Welcome back to another episode of Longhorn Central, right here on the voice of college football, the Texas channel. Every Monday night, you can catch Matthew Miller and Mark Rogers on Texas Longhorns Live, discussing whatever might have happened in Longhorns Nation over the past week. So definitely hit that subscribe button, tell a friend. This all costs you nothing, and it really helps the channel grow. My name is Sonny Verma. You can find me at Horn Central. You can also find me at the Sonny V for bigger, broader sports takes. So the month of July hasn't exactly gotten off to a great start for the Texas Longhorns. We all know on 4th of July, Doran Moore, the 5-star wide receiver from Duncanville, Texas, decided to commit to the Oregon Ducks. This was a recruitment that Texas was feeling pretty good about. Supposedly, he had already silently committed to them on his visit a couple weeks back, but as is the case that happens a lot with college football, recruiting is fluid. And once that commitment happened, you kind of saw a lot of Texas media and fans and Twitter, whatnot, start flexing the $1.3 million that reportedly Doran Moore got by going to Oregon, as if that was some sort of concession point. Like, oh, okay, well, of course, we're not going to be paying something like that for a wide receiver that hasn't stepped foot on a college campus yet. And I initially understood that viewpoint, but as the weekend progressed, I thought about it a little bit more, and now I'm starting to wonder why. Oregon obviously is an NIL juggernaut. I understand they've got the whole Nike machine behind them. And I'm not saying they aren't a foe to be reckoned with, but they're not the Texas Longhorns program. It's been long talked about, and in my opinion, it is the case that Texas is the best job in all of college football. This is not me just pulling this information out of nowhere. In 2023, in strictly college football revenue, the Texas Longhorns almost lapped the field when it came to revenue. Texas came out number one at $182 million. Second was Georgia at 152. And then you had Michigan at 143 in third. You're talking about $30 million more than second place in college football. Obviously, the donor base that Texas has absolutely rivals Oregon. And I would argue surpasses it. I understand Nike. Okay, I get that point. But the sheer amount of donors that we have, especially in that state of Texas. In Austin, there are no other professional teams. The Texas Longhorns are the professional teams. And you know what? It's time to start acting like it. There's one sport that does not have a salary cap. Major League Baseball. And you know who you find atop of the standings almost every single year? The Los Angeles Dodgers, the New York Yankees. You know why? Because they're the New York Yankees and they're the LA Dodgers. They flex their muscle within the rules and they do what nobody else is capable of doing. I don't understand the idea that, okay, you know what, maybe once in a while you lose a guy to Oregon because, you know, supposedly as the Doran Moore story goes, he wanted to pave his own path. He wanted to go do his own thing. And Oregon has a flashy brand. Let's be honest about it. But it should never be an NIL decision. If a player like Doran Moore costs $1.3 million, then Texas football should pay him $1.3 million. Now, I've heard naysayers say, hey, Texas and A&M tried that strategy. The University of Miami, Florida tried that strategy, and look how it turned out. Texas A&M and Miami are not Texas. You've paid all this money to Steve Sarkisian because you trust him. You made sure he didn't go to Alabama. You locked him up long-term, paid him a lot of money, and now you're holding the resources back. And if this is ultimately a Steve Sarkisian decision, then I absolutely question that. It's one thing when the Texas Longhorns were in the Big 12. Texas would finish top 3 regardless, just because of our resources, which we barely had to tap into. But guess what, guys? We're playing big boy football now. The SEC, you can't just rest on your laurels. There's teams out there, Georgia's, Texas A&M, Alabama. There's teams out there that have resources comparable to yours if this is the way you're going to play. You didn't just level up in conference. It's time to level up in flexing. If we're going to be honest, Texas Longhorns football still has the highest ceiling in the SEC. I don't want us to be humble. There's no humility in this game. We don't know what the rules are going to like moving forward. If a JV player gets bumped up to varsity, that doesn't mean that he should just continue to stay complacent and think his talent alone will help him reach his potential. Texas Longhorns are the same thing. Sure, they barely had to dip into the well before in the Big 12, but now it's time to really be the juggernaut you're capable of being. You have the resources in every aspect. You have the history. You have the coaching. You have the money. And now you have the conference. Don't try to play Georgia football. Don't try to play Alabama at their own game. Make them match up to your game. Make them max out their resources. Because if every school in the country maxes out their resources, the Texas Longhorns are on top. And I think that's what we want to be. That's what we've always thought ourselves to be. College football, for better or worse, has changed. I know a lot of people aren't happy with it. I certainly am not happy with it. But I made a choice a little while back, and that's that I'm going to continue watching what is my favorite sport. And if that's the case, if I'm going to invest all my time in watching my favorite sport, I want the Longhorns to succeed. I don't want them to compete with one hand tied behind their back when they don't need to. The Texas Longhorns just went to a playoff game last year. We should be having the best recruiting class we've had in decades. We put a record number of college football players in the NFL draft. Our early lack of success should not be happening right now. And I'm just worried that at the moment, Steve Sarkisian and the staff is way too worried about playing nice, about not trying to be perceived as the bully in the room. Go be that bully. Go get the best talent. If that 5-star number 3 rated player in the country is worth $1.3 million, bring him in, make him a Longhorn. If that upsets another 4-star who you've recruited, you have two choices. Either make things fair, evaluate and see what his worth is, or if he's not the type that you want in that locker room, move on. The Texas Longhorns locker room should always have the most talented players in the country. There's no reason not to. Every now and then, sure, there's as I mentioned before, there might be a guy who just wants to stay close to home, which is not Texas. or they may just have a connection to a different university and that's why they commit there. But if all things are fair and on an equal level, if Sark is the guy, the Texas Longhorns need to let the rest of the SEC know that they are the ones that are going to have to level up to keep up with Texas football, not the other way around. It's not Texas football joining the SEC. It's the SEC now having to deal with Texas football. Let me know in the chat if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. I know a lot of people, again, don't like the direction the college football has gone, but I just want to see Texas football win a national championship. You got a taste of it in the playoffs last year, but now it looks like we may not even have a top 10 recruiting class for 2025. And that should just not be the case. And me personally leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And I don't understand how it doesn't leave a bad taste in everyone else's mouth. Again, it's one thing if you are in the top quarter of spenders in college football, where you talk about being efficient with your money. We don't have to do that. This is Texas Longhorns football, the most prestigious job in the country. Let's act like it. Once again, my name is Sonny Verma. You can find me at Horn Central. I try to come in and drop some breaking news on occasion whenever I can. You please like the channel. Please subscribe to the channel. Send it to your group chats or whatnot. It costs you guys nothing and really helps our community grow, especially as the season creeps ever so close. When breaking news happens, I will be here. And so hit that notification button and we'll see you soon.